I'm Katie from Abridge Academy, and today I'm going to be working through Level 1 trial class of the Abridge Academy curriculum. This is available for free, so if you are a free tier member, you can find this in your member dashboard. And if you're not a member yet, do sign up for the free tier for full access. So, after joining Abridge Academy or logging in, you should be directed to your member dashboard. You can also access this anytime after logging in by clicking on the Abridge Academy logo in the top left corner. Scroll down a little bit to the step-by-step curriculum section and you'll find here the placement test and trial classes. Click to be taken to the placement test. I've worked through the placement test already in one of the previous videos, so do check that out for more details. On the left-hand side, you'll see links to the different trial classes. You'll also find these linked in the placement test in the results section here. So depending on your student's score in the placement test, you'll be pointed in the correct direction for the best trial class. And you can just click on these to go to the trial class. Or, as I said, on the left-hand side, you can use these tabs to jump to the different trial classes as well. Today, we're going to be looking at the Level 1 trial class. This trial class is intended to give new students an insight into Level 1 of the Abridge Academy curriculum. It's focusing on parts of the face, while familiarising students with your teaching platform's tools, allowing them to enjoy interactive, fun activities, and give them an insight into your teaching style. Before you do the trial class, I'm going to remind you again, make sure you've done the placement test with your students to make sure it's the correct trial class for them. The placement test should take around 10 minutes or so, and then the trial class will be around 20 minutes. So that allows you to sort of manage your pacing within a standard half-hour long class. If during the trial class you feel that the level is unsuitable, you can easily switch to a different level by using this menu on the left-hand side just to jump to a different trial class. So there's no need to stick with the trial class if you feel that your student is struggling or finding it too easy. After you've completed the trial class, don't forget to also send your students a feedback and learning plan template, as well as the trial class completion certificate and the Abridge Academy Curriculum Parents Guide. You can find these easily linked around the trial class materials here on the screen. Today though, I want to really zoom in on and have a look at the Level 1 trial class with lots of top tips and suggestions for making the most of this lesson. This is going to help you really sell your classes to the new student and make sure they sign up. Now, as with all of the Abridge Academy lessons, you can use all of our interactive slide tools. There is, of course, a pen tool for drawing on the screen, highlighting things, circling words, and so on. There is, on the bottom right corner, various options like the ability to open in full screen mode, the ability to show all the pages that make up the lesson slides if you want to jump ahead or skip back, and zooming in, zooming out, and skipping to specific pages, just as there are in any Abridge Academy lesson. You can also use the tabs on the right-hand side to skip to different sections of the trial class as well. Now, one thing I always emphasize, and I really would just remind you again, make sure you've inputted your student's name and your teacher's name on that first page of the trial class. So in this case, we're going to have a student called Nancy, and my name is Katie. This is an opportunity for you just to warm up the student while you're sort of showing this section of the class. Ask them what their name is, how do you spell that, check they're knowing the alphabet letters, that kind of thing while you're typing it in on the screen. And then we're going to move quickly on to the actual trial class itself. So we start with a quick warm-up. How are you and how's the weather? Now, if you've just finished the placement test with the student, you've probably already done these kind of warm-up questions, in which case there's no need to do them. You could instead just jump straight ahead to the next section by using the tabs on the right-hand side and clicking on instructions. So you can skip the warm-up section entirely if you've just finished the placement test and you feel like there's no need to go through it again with the student, or you're struggling a bit with your pacing and you need to save a little bit of time. But yeah, let's imagine you are just doing the whole warm-up. I'm going to show you quickly what's included. How are you? Hopefully they'll say like, I'm happy, or I'm excited, rather than I'm tired. But whatever they say, you can click on the relevant image just to get them to, respond. Nice quick sentence. How's the weather? It's sunny, it's rainy, and so on. Again, this should take 30 seconds max, just a quick warm-up. There's also the option to play a kind of hello song intro video if you want to kind of have a bit of music, and if you've got plenty of time to sort of use up in your class, then that could be a bit of fun as well. Okay, the first main section of the trial class is the instructions section. This is familiarising your students with your teaching platform tools. It's really important for students to be able to make the most of these functionality that's built into the Abridge Academy lessons. There's so much interactivity, things that they can click on, things they can draw, things they can move on the screen, things they can select, all of this interactivity to make learning really fun. And it's kind of a shame if they miss out on it because they didn't know how to use that functionality in your teaching platform. Different teaching platforms will have different levels of interactivity that's possible and different buttons you need to click to give students the ability to annotate or give them the ability to click and so on. So make sure you've also familiarized yourself with your teaching platform tools before your first class. But yes, let's have a look at the instructional slides. First instruction they're going to learn is how to click. And there's a nice little hand here, and you'll find this used throughout the Abridge Academy lessons, this little symbol of a hand sort of pulsing a bit, indicating there's something that's clickable that it's pointing at. If you want to, you can play the audio so they can hear the word click and how it's pronounced. You can get them to say it as well, depending on how much you want your student involved in this. And then there's two things for them to practice clicking. And at this point, you want to give your student the ability to use your mouse if you're using something like Zoom, or if you're using a co-browser like QualiGo, make sure you're giving your student permission to interact, in which case they'll be able to click. Whatever teaching platform you're using, activate whatever feature is available for them to click. And then hopefully the student is then going to move the mouse around and click on each of these things. As they click, they get a nice little reward trophy. And here they got 2 trophies. Yay, great job. Lots of positivity, lots of positive reinforcement here. If your teaching platform's got the ability to give stars or trophies or confetti or some other kind of reward to your students, make the most of that. So whenever these trophies appear, you can then give your student a star to celebrate their success. Again, depends on your teaching platform. Next page. Now they're going to practice dragging. These slides, by the way, the instructional things, we're thinking, maximum 1 minute on each slide. Probably more like 30 seconds. Hopefully they can pick this up quite quickly. It's just familiarizing them with the symbol that's used, with the word, the instructional word that you're going to use in your lessons, and just getting them to practice using that functionality. So here we've got drag, and we've got a little hand that's sort of moving up and down like it's dragging something on the screen. That's the symbol they've got to be familiar with. And then some words for them to practice dragging. As they move the mouse, they'll see these arrows appear showing them where to drag the words to. It doesn't actually matter too much. As long as they drag the words roughly in the right place, it will work. So they're going to practice dragging the words. And while they're doing this, get them to say the word drag. It helps reinforce that vocabulary, right? Same with clicking. Click, get them to say the word click. Here we're dragging, get them to say the word drag as they're dragging it on the screen. Drag, drag, drag. Great job, well done. Have another star, have another trophy, have another confetti thing, whatever your teaching platform sort of includes. Next. Now we're going to practice drawing. And hopefully the pencil tool is quite self-explanatory, but get them to sort of say the word draw, make sure they understand what that is. Top right corner here, you can click to open the pen tool. If you're using a teaching platform that's got its own built-in annotation tools, it's usually easier to use those. So for example, if you're using Zoom, when you're screen sharing, there's the option to annotate using the Zoom built-in tools. That's usually a lot easier than giving your students mouse control to use the annotation tool that's built into the slides. So I'd recommend using your teaching platform's annotation tools where possible. But yeah, you get to pick the color they want or whatever, and then we're going to draw on the screen here. Draw a circle, draw a line, draw a heart. You can use it to practice shapes and things, but to be honest, we want to be quite quick with this slide. We're just practicing drawing and making sure they know how to annotate on the screen. Okay, and then moving on. So that's the main instructions they're focusing on in level 1, just clicking, dragging, and drawing. Now we move on to the main kind of content of the trial class. I will point out these trial classes, they're designed to give your students easy, quick wins. So there's going to be key, simple learning objectives, which will mostly be like a new vocabulary point or a new grammar point or something key they're going to learn. There's lots of fun games and activities to reinforce this. And by the end of the trial class, they should be very confident with one specific thing they've learned in the trial. It's kind of like a mini cut down version of a normal lesson. It's a little bit shorter, one really key learning objective they're focusing on, and lots of interactivity and games and reinforcement to give them lots of practice. Anyways, here we've got the new word section. They're going to learn 4 new words: eyes, ears, nose, mouth. So we start off with presentation slide that's just introducing those new words: eyes, ears, nose, mouth. And if you're ever not sure what to do on any of the Abridge Academy lesson slides, this is just an opportunity for me to remind you that in the top left corner, we've got this little question mark button. When you click on that, it pops up with the teacher tips with some advice on how to use this particular slide. So here it's saying, ask the student to repeat the new words, focusing on pronunciation, check their understanding by quizzing them using flashcards or actions, and then practice using these new words in example sentences. Again, adapt this according to the level of your student. So I would probably mine pointing at different parts of my body. What's this? Eyes, get the student to say it and get them to point at things. Eyes, nose, ears, mouth, and so on. Just getting to say the words correctly. You can play the audio in both British and American English to hear the different pronunciation, get them to practice that. You may also wish to kind of highlight key spelling or phonics kind of ideas. So for example, the word nose is a great example of magic E, making O, like a long O sound. It's not nos, it's nose. That's an example, point out things like that if you wish. Again, it depends a bit on your student as to what they want to focus on. You can annotate with sort of pronunciation marks and things that are sort of stressed sections of the word, stressed syllables and things like that. But to be honest, level 1 is quite straightforward. It's mostly just repeat the new words, I would say, at this point. Next, we've got a click to flip activity. Again, a little reminder that little pulsing hand in the bottom right corner is an indication that this is an interactive slide that they can click on things on the screen. So you can then say to the student, click on the nose, and they're going to look around like, where's the nose? Click on the nose, and hopefully they'll be pointing themselves at their own nose. They'll be saying the word nose, and then they're going to click on the noses and click on them on the screen. Or alternatively, you can do it the other way around. You can say, get them to produce the word themselves. So for example, maybe you're going to circle this and say, what's this? And point at it, what's this? Mouth. Great, it's a mouth. And then you can click to reveal the correct answer. So 2 different ways of doing that really. Either you point to the body part and get them to say the word, or you say the word and get them to click on the correct part on the screen. Or if you're using a teaching platform that doesn't have the ability to click, you can instead get them to circle it on the screen and then you're going to click on their behalf. So there's lots of different ways you can adapt this. I've also seen some teachers make this a bit more gamified. For example, if you've got a dice that's built into your teaching platform, little dice you can roll, they would number the 6 flashcards 1 through 6, and then you can roll the dice using your teaching platform's dice tool, and then whichever number comes up, you can get the student to say the correct word. So there's a few different ways in which you can enjoy this kind of slide, make it more interactive, make it more gamified, make it more fun, again, depending on the level and the sort of maturity of your students. But yeah, they can click through and practice saying the new words. Then we have a quick song. Now, when you click play, it's got a few different tools at the bottom right corner. So for example, you can add subtitles if you want to have those on the screen for the student to read. You can also, in the settings, adjust a few different things. So for example, there's the subtitles. You can even change those to different language if you wish. You can adjust the playback speed. If the student is struggling with the speed of the video, you can simply make it a little bit slower, maybe 0.5 or 0.75. And you can also adjust the quality of the video if you're having some internet connection issues. But as you play the video, you're going to get the student to act out along with the dancer in the video. You're going to get them to say the new words. You're going to get them to point at different parts of the body. If necessary, you can use the kind of bottom here along the screen to zip back and forth and repeat sections of the video if you want them just to keep repeating each line by line. There's different ways in which you can do this, but mostly it's have a bit of fun, sing a song together, get them to practice saying the new words and doing actions. Okay, our next activity is to make a face. And here you've got that little symbol in the bottom right corner again, a little hand floating up and down, illustrating that this is something they can drag. They can move things on the screen. That's the interactivity here. And you're going to get them to drag the parts of the body onto the circle in the middle to make a face. And as they do so, you want them to be saying those new words like eyes, nose, mouth, ears. With slightly more advanced student, you can get them to count things like 2 eyes, 2 ears, 1 nose. You can even get them to say full sentences. These are my eyes. This is my nose. Again, depending a bit on the level of your student, little small ways to tweak and adjust it. Maybe they want to add a few more things that they can draw on some hair. And they can even describe it. Like, I have black hair, I have short hair, I have curly hair. You can add more detail, describing it, what colour their eyes are, how big their nose is, how many of each part they've got, depending a bit on the level of the student as to how much you want to stretch and challenge them. Or with lower level students, just get them to say each word again, just repeating. Okay, next slide is about describing different faces. And you can see there's some question prompts here on the screen. At this level, we're not really expecting students to be able to read these sentences. It's more for you as a teacher to ask the questions to the students. You see there's something they can click, so we're going to click here. It's going to show a random monster. Kids love these, they're cute and they're fun. So looking at this monster here, the first question, does it have a nose? So ask your student, does it have a nose? Maybe point at your nose to kind of illustrate. Where's the nose? No, it doesn't. Okay, and again, lots of actions, big kind of cross for no, or like thumbs up for yes, getting them to understand what what they're saying. How many eyes does it have? And here you want to annotate, circle the eyes, count the eyes, 1, 2, 3, or you can be using your fingers perhaps for this, 1, 2, 3, like counting them, highlighting them, circling them, pointing at the parts of your face, using flashcards and props if you want to, that kind of thing. Does it have any ears? Yes, it does, 2 ears. I highlight them on the screen, circle them, and so on. Where is its mouth? This is probably where you want the student to circle it themselves using the annotation tools. So asking the questions, and then you can just click again to show a different monster and ask the questions again. Now, depending on how you're doing in terms of pacing, you might want to just show 1 or 2 monsters, or you can play this game for quite a few minutes with lots of different monsters as you wish. Okay, and then the last main section of the lesson are some fun games. There are actually 3 games available in this lesson. Again, depending on your timing, you can either do all 3 games, or you can get the student just to pick one. So that's up to you as a teacher and how you're doing in terms of pacing. So let's, ask the student, what game did you want to play? And there's the option here to click on the different games. Let's start with a no game. You can just click next, or you can click on the game on the screen here. So the game is quite simple. There's some instructions on the screen, and you play it with a kid. So point to a body part and say a word. So point, nose, right? Nose. If the word is correct, the student should repeat the word in action. So the student's going to do the same thing. The student will say nose, nose. Okay, great, good job. And you're going to give them a star. If the word is incorrect, so if I say eyes, eyes, and the student's going to go no, right? No, that's not correct, in order to get a star. So it's quite simple. Each time that you say a word and you point at a body part, if you say it correctly, the student repeats the word and does the same action as you. If you say incorrectly, like you're pointing to your ear and you're saying nose, then the student should just say no, and then they get a star that way. If they get anything incorrect, you can deduct stars if you wish, like so. Depends a bit on the student as to whether you actually want to deduct stars, or you can just be nice and positive and only give them stars. That's up to you. But the goal is to get to 10 stars to win the game. And that's it. There are some more detailed instructions on the teacher notes, by the way. The ones on the screen are a little bit simplified just to help the student out. So look at the teacher tips for more detail on how to play this particular game. This is based on a game called Liar Game, if you want to Google it and find more information and tips on how to play it. In classrooms, we usually call this Liar Game. But here we're just calling it No Game because no is a bit simpler word for students to understand. Okay. The next game is Teacher Says, which is, of course, based off Simon Says. And again, you can click on the teacher notes to open up the instructions if you need any advice. But it's quite straightforward. The teacher says, touch your nose. Now, don't do the actions yourself. You want the student to understand what you're saying, recognize the word, and do the action. So teacher says, touch your nose. And then the student should touch their nose. That's it. And they get a point. If they touch the wrong part of their body, then they lose a point, right? You can also say, just touch your nose without the teacher says bit, and in which case they should not do anything. A bit like in Simon Says, right? And then you can give them points just by using the stars on the screen here. Depending on how generous you want to be, some teachers just don't deduct stars if they get it wrong. Particularly if you're struggling on timing, you don't want to spend ages going back, removing stars and adding more stars. So you can either deduct some points if they get it wrong, or you can just not give them a star if they get it wrong. The instructions say to deduct 3 stars if they get it wrong, but again, adjust that according to the level of your student. You want to give them a nice confidence boost here. You don't want them to be like losing all of the stars all the time. But yeah, the goal is to get to 10 stars, same as before. And then the next game is tic-tac-toe. Quite self-explanatory. You'll find this in quite a few of the Abridge Academy lessons. All they need to do is play a game of tic-tac-toe. The goal is to get 3 in a row. So you just take turns, you and the students, to move the counters on the screen. And if you want to place a counter here where there's a nose, you have to say the word nose. And you can get them to point at the nose, say the word nose, say a sentence with the word nose, or answer a question about their nose, or describe their nose, or something, depending a bit on the level of the students. And then it's the other person's turn. Eyes, ears, mouth. So you're just taking turns and you're saying the words as you go. The goal, of course, is to try and get 3 in a row. If you get 3 in a row like this, then you've won the game. Okay, so you play the game that you want, and you can just click next to go to the next game as you work through. Or if you only had time for one game, you can just skip ahead to the final section after this by clicking directly on the review tab here. So if you want to skip the rest of the games and just go straight to the end without the student realizing that you're skipping games, just click on this review tab in the bottom right corner to jump to the end. And the review slide is just a nice summary and their feedback. So first we're going to summarize the key thing we learned in this lesson. As we said, these trial class lessons are designed to be quite straightforward, like one really key thing they're learning. Here, the key thing they're learning is the words for 4 parts of the face. So you're going to get them here to drag the words to match with the images. Now, if they're struggling a bit with reading the words, that's fine. Just ask them to say the word for each image, like what are these? Eyes, great. And then you're going to drag the word for them. That's fine. So you're going to match up the words with the images, getting them to say the words, getting them to point to the relevant parts of their body, getting them to describe it if they wish. And once they get it all right, another trophy to celebrate that, yes, they've achieved the main learning objective of this lesson. Great job. And then we move to the feedback slide. The feedback slide, again, if you teach some of the Abridge Academy lessons before, it's very similar to what you'll find in the standard Abridge Academy curriculum lessons. So here we've got feedback for and then your student's name. That gets taken from your student's name that you inputted right at the beginning of the lesson. It shows you the dates, it gives a little bit of information about the class, and then it's a summary of the key things that they've learned. So you've got new words, 4 new words, productive skills, speaking confidence and pronunciation skills, instructions, click, drag and draw, and then a space for comment. For each of these learning objectives, you can just click on the star to give them a rating out of 3 for that particular skill. So the new words, if they got them all correct, let's give them full star, like the whole star. You can just click on it again to reset if you accidentally click too many times. So you're just going to cycle through the stars until you get to the score you want to give them. Let's say they were okay with the speaking confidence, but their pronunciation was a bit iffy sometimes, so we're going to give them 2 out of 3. And instructions, they were great at, fantastic. So you just give them a score using the star system, and then you can write a nice little comment, well done, blah, blah, blah. In your comments, feel free to give a little bit more detail. What did they do well? How could they improve next time? What are you going to work on? That kind of thing. And you're doing all this while you're speaking to a student and wrapping up the end of the lesson. So it's giving them direct feedback on how they did. Then you just want to take a screenshot of this feedback slide for your own reference and maybe to send to the parents too if you wish. But don't end the class just yet, because the next page is something a lot of the kids get very excited about. This is the certificate page. Again, it's automatically generated using the name that you put in at the beginning of the lesson. So here we've got, well done, Nancy, for successfully passing the trial class for Abridge Academy Level 1. And it's got, again, the date on it. It's got your teacher and a kind of, looks a bit like a signature sort of thing here. And our characters sort of celebrating their success. Again, take a screenshot of this so you can send it to the parents after the class. And then that's it. That's the end of the lesson. So the trial class is designed to be sort of relatively straightforward in terms of the skills and the knowledge that they're learning. So they should definitely end the class having learned something new and felt like they really mastered that thing. So in this case, they learned 4 new words and they got really good at those 4 new words. And they had loads of fun enjoying learning those words, right? There's lots of games and interactivity and all these activities built in for practice. It's mostly an opportunity for you to show off your teaching skills, for a student to come away feeling like they've learned something and they've had fun and you're a great teacher. And don't forget to make sure to end with that sort of celebratory certificate and sort of celebrate how well your student has done. Now, after the class, there's some more materials which I'm going to show in future videos, particularly a more detailed feedback and learning templates and the curriculum guide for parents, as well as, of course, that certificate that you took a screenshot of already. So make sure that you check out the future videos for information on those.